Hey, everybody, I'm Candid. Frankie's Aaron William Freeland. You may have forgotten us, but we have not forgotten you. And we're back. And while we've been gone, our little respite, if you will, there's a lot been going on. Um, a lot of it had to do with the Maple Leafs and the World Cup's happening. But let's start with the Maple Leafs. We were here when they hired the new coach. We were here when the first overall pick, the magic number 12, came up, meaning they got the first overall pick, which, by the way, our mutual friend David Morisuti had an idea. Since there's a question about the number that he should wear, what about 12? I mean, it seems to be a lucky number for him in the Maple Leafs. If he really wanted to be a Maple Leaf, it's a lucky number. And the other thing that I wanted to point to David, but he didn't call me back, 12 looks the closest to 72 of all the numbers.
This is true,
Right?
but apparently,
Take the one and
apparently Gavin McKenna spoke with a certain O-Dog about his number 92 as an appropriate way to honor Maple Leaf greats of the past. And O-Dog was, of course, happy to oblige and gave his blessing to wear that particular number.
Not that it was necessary.
No,
because he could call Nylander, he could call Alex Nylander as well, and say, hey, you don't mind if I wear your number. Now, he had a little more of a better history, a half a point per game player, whatever, so in other words, in an 82 game schedule, he made about 41 points. So, not exactly that of legends, but I think it was kind of, for me, it felt more like a tongue-in-cheek thing.
Yeah, it certainly felt that way for sure. But there were a lot of transactions that actually went down for the Maple Leafs, starting with a trade of Nicholas Robertson to the Pittsburgh Penguins, which, I don't think was entirely unexpected. Kyle Dubas loves his guys, and Robertson hadn't really been particularly happy with the Toronto Maple Leafs in the past couple of seasons. So this actually coming to a head and him actually being moved is not really that much of a surprise. On the heels of that, they decided to free up some space in the twine tents by trading Dennis Hildeby to the Tampa Bay Lightning in exchange for forward Nick Paul. They also signed Zach McEwen, Brandon Duhaime, Colton Sissons, Jack Roslovic, Troy Stetcher, Teddy Bluger, and Henrik Rybinski, Cole McWard, Vinny Lettieri, Samuel Hlabash, and the big get, Sergei Bobrovsky. So definitely, an interesting signing for sure. He's currently
first overall pick. They signed their first overall pick as well.
Well, yeah, they signed Gavin McKenna to a 3-year entry-level contract as expected.
Right.
And Bobrovsky for 3 years for $21 million.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting signing for sure. Well, with Wall already going out the door, obviously it wasn't that much of a surprise that they needed to get rid of Hildeby too to make a little more cap space. As it currently stands, they're a little bit over the cap, but during the summer they're allowed to be 10% over the cap. They just have to be in compliance by the time the season starts. So if what's in the face, if Domi isn't ready to go, then they've got that problem licked right there.
I'm seeing the Bobrovsky signing as basically a message sender, and while it might be assumed it's sent to the fans and or the team, the players, I think it also gets sent to Akhmetov, who considers Bobrovsky his hero. Now, they're both on the same team, and because of his mobility, and I don't mean in the crease, Akhmetov can come up to the Leafs, go back to the minors. He can be a yo-yo. So he can go up, say hello to Bobrovsky, He can glean whatever it is that makes Bobrovsky or has made Bobrovsky the great goaltender that he is. Obviously, 2 Stanley Cup championships speak to that. And if you remember, Aaron, I feel like the Maple Leaf organization was listening to me. If you remember, I insisted that they take advantage of the opportunity to have the glut in goal. And I said that because I've seen before, we've seen together, we've watched when the Leafs have lost a goaltender on the waiver wire. Now, that was bound to happen, right? Now, I got to say, I would have preferred Stolarz rather than the Hildebeest to be traded. But I think Tampa also felt the same way as me. They'd rather have Hildebeest than Stolarz. So what did they get? They got a player with edge, a big guy, a guy when the going gets tough, he gets going. You know, these are players, Aaron, for the most part, and when I say the most part, more than 50% of what they brought in aren't exactly upwardly mobile like Sissons. I mean, the older guys, forget the young guys, but the older guys have slipped a little bit, and so has the goaltender. But the calculation is that Bobrovsky's bad season last year was less about him and more who was in front of him and how they played that gave him that 888 or 883 or whatever it is goals against average, which isn't pretty. It's not that of Hall of Fame numbers. But I got to say, Aaron, you can't say that Chayka and I guess to a degree equally or whatever, Matt Sundin, they weren't sitting on their hands so far this summer.
No. And when you look at a lot of the guys that they brought in, Stetcher's under control until the end of 2028. Semuth, Emil Andre, OEL, Zach McEwen, Easton Cowan, Stephen Lorentz, Teddy Bluger, Dakota Joshua, Max Domi, Jack Roslovic, Colton Sissons. They're all under contract for the next 2 years. Coincidentally, 2 years is when Austin Matthews' contract is going to be up.
Coincidentally.
So I think they've done a little bit of pre-planning here in that all of these guys are due to come off the books at the same time that the Maple Leafs are, if necessary, prepared to lose Matthews to unrestricted free agency. And it's not a bad plan. By the time that rolls around, by the time we get to the end of the 27-28 season, the cap's going to be around $110 million.
What are you saying? Are you saying that there is no future for Matthews with the Maple Leafs?
I'm saying they're future-proofing themselves in the unlikely event that they can't re-sign him because they haven't won a cup. It is what it is, you know.
And I don't think this team and the people they brought in, everything they brought in, number one, starting with their first overall pick, is a player that's known for his apple delivery, right?
Yep.
The guy gets his share of apples, right? So clearly, I see the moves, and as they're spun by the media and others, that these are all players that play, not all of them. Within the group, there's a lot of edge. There's a lot of physicality. There's a lot of responsibility. And there's a lot of what in the past couple of years Matthews has done that I think this regime is saying, you know what? We don't want you to do faceoffs in our zone. We want other players that can win faceoffs in our zone. And when the faceoff is in their zone, we're going to put you there. Whenever we're in an offensive posture, that's where we want you. We want you in the offensive posture. Now, it seems that way to me. Now, do I know for sure? But what I can say is I will be looking for that. I'll be looking for, Matthews' responsibility defensively being less than it has been the last couple of years. And they have the players, I think, that can afford them to do that. In other words, they've got a checking. It looks like they're going to have a pretty good third line that can check, that you can put up there head to head with the other team's top line and at least nullify that line's success, freeing up Matthews to basically deal with somebody other than the first line. I think that was an experiment the past couple of years. And last year, I think it showed heavily that unfortunately Matthews is mismatched. His line is mismatched against the other team's top line. And we might be seeing that subtle change, which will change the fortunes the organization hopes for the Leafs and simultaneously for their captain. So it's an interesting thing they're doing, what it looks like. And we only can infer it at this point because we haven't seen them play together yet. And my final comment on the guys that they brought in a lot of new guys, Aaron. There's going to be an adjustment period. This ain't going to be coming out of the gate hot. This is going to be coming out of the gate, and what can we do to be better as quick as we can? That's what this is going to be all about, in my opinion.
Well, and the majority of the guys that they brought in have been around the league for a while, so they know how to play with other players and how to gel relatively quickly.
And there's a lot of community there. There's a lot of mini connections within. There's the Tampa connection. There's the Florida connection. There's the LA connection. You know what I'm getting at with some of these players. They played together before elsewhere. Vancouver, for example.
And Columbus, for example, as well, because I know that the Leafs have been looking to try to lay in Werenski. So that's another connection that they have through Jack Roslovic. So that's another thing that they're looking at there. So it's definitely a possibility that all of this could potentially fall into place. Again, they are currently sitting about $2.75 million over the cap currently. So I'm not sure exactly how they'd be able to bring Werenski in without moving out.
He's not coming.
No, it's unlikely. I mean, it could potentially happen, but they've got $10.75 million tied up in goaltenders right now, $31.4 million tied up in defense, and a whopping $64.6 million tied up in forwards. So, where they go here, they've kind of limited themselves when it comes to dollar sign flexibility, but at the same time, they've made things look more interesting for sure.
For Werenski to put on a Leaf jersey, Nyes will have to put on a Columbus Blue Jackets jersey.
Well, $7.5 million out for Zach Werenski is something that I'd be willing to look at.
And that's not just because of the quality of the player, Nyes, but the value of his contract, because there'd have to be money coming in and money going out. No trading a rocket ship for a kite. It's going to be rocket ship for rocket ship. And then the question becomes, does the Leaf team become too heavy on defense and be the opposite of what they've been over the past few years, Aaron? And speaking of Rockets, their power play now is going to have a guy who's one of the hardest shooters in the National Hockey League. So we haven't seen that, and if there's a failing on 44, on Riley, it is that he doesn't have a hard shot. He can't beat goaltenders from the blue line. And if you have a defenseman that can do that, it keeps them honest in front of the net, because that Whalen shot there, is something that redirections become even more troublesome because of the speed of the puck. And I believe that guys like Matthews, Nyes, even Tavares, I think they can handle a heavy shot and deflect it as well as they've done in the past. We've seen there was a time they seemed to like doing that, and it's not something that we've seen from the Leaf team. The last version of the Leaf team. Previous versions have done very well in tipping shots, and a hard shot that gets to the net, which is the problem the Leafs have had. The point can't deliver to the net. And now if this is the one thing that if they can improve that, and then on top of the other thing, because a lot of change is also bringing people back in. There's a certain defenseman who's been out a couple of years, who's the shutdown guy and can make McCabe an effective defenseman. a lot of people are talking about dumping McCabe, but you don't dump him if you know who's back. You know, so that's the way I see this. It's not just change with players they've brought in. It's a key defenseman that gets back in the lineup that matters here for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And we're definitely hoping he shows up sooner rather than later.
And
And
sticks
again,
around.
yeah, exactly. And you add in Calder Cup winner and former Wild forward Vinny Lettieri to the mix as well as an offensive weapon, and that makes things even more interesting because he re-signed for another year for league minimum. So that certainly makes things a little more interesting in that regard. John
You're 100%
Prokop is
right.
out. William Villeneuve is an RFA. Topi Niemela is an RFA. Matt Benning is now a UFA. They've got a whole bunch of guys down in the Marlies that they can bring up as well. They've got Dakota Mermis, Cade Weber, Marshall Rafai, Philippe Myers, not so much. Ben Danford is definitely a possibility as well, based on the way that he played over the course of the Calder Cup finals. Not to mention Vinny Borghese is also looking good. You've also got Travis Boyd, Semyonov Argachev, Roni Hervinen, Braden Kessler, and Jacob Quillen, who are now either UFAs with no qualifying offer, or RFAs. So there's a lot of signings still to be done for the Maple Leafs. There's still going to be a lot of cap shenaniganery going on.
And the subscript on that is you're going to have a lot of players who just want to call their cup, which means they're going to be confident. They're going to believe in themselves. Yep. And they're going to trust what they can do more than maybe they did before the playoffs, Aaron. And that'll be a benefit for the Leafs as well. So when they bring up those guys are going to feel like they belong a little more than they would have otherwise. And I think that's important. And what we're learning from this management team is they're not afraid to make trades. So
this is true.
We could see guys that are here now. And I can imagine that this ain't gonna. It should, but it might not, because it's a two-edged sword. When you keep trading, at some point you have to have some stability, right? So I don't know how tempted they're going to be during the season to make more moves, or is it going to be something that won't do anything till Christmas? I'm curious to see how this plays out. And the Riley situation, Aaron, I don't think it's played out to its end.
No, there's definitely more going on there than we're aware of currently. Hopefully the situation will clarify itself a little bit later in the summer. But again, it's not like they need to move him immediately. He's still under contract until 2030. So, if they can find the right fit, I think that's the most important part here, is not only getting rid of his $7.5 million salary, but getting something worth it back is usually the hardest part.
There's my question. Here comes my question. Would a second round pick be value in return in your mind?
At this point in Riley's career, after the service that he's put in and the way that we've seen some of his statistics drop off, also factor in the fact that he is a new father, I think a second round pick would be fair return.
And it would solve the problem of the salary issue that they have.
Oh, 100%. In the same way that moving out Matthew Nyes and his 7 3/4, like if you get rid of Riley and you get rid of Nyes, that frees up $15.25 million, which gives you a whole lot of room to do a whole bunch of other things that you'd like to do.
But I think a lot of people, and I think I'd be one of them. I'm not sure I'm unsold on Nyes. Here's what I'm going to say about Nyes and what I feel about Nyes. That's his, like, he's both risk and reward at the same time. My issue with Nyes is that in the physical aspect of the playoffs has historically not been good for him. His body has not been able to withstand the kind of pressure that the playoffs bring to bear on players. Seems counterintuitive when you consider his size, but he has had difficulty this past season. He had health issues as well. Last year in the playoffs, he had health issues as well, and he was out for the playoffs a couple of years before that. So I wonder if statistically the Maple Leafs have something that points them at this guy. We love him. His value is more in trade than it is in possession, in their possession of him. I wouldn't disagree with that theory at all. If that's their motivation, that they feel that this guy can't stay healthy in the playoffs. And if if you really want to talk about what Leaf fans want, it's the playoffs, and it's going down the road and making a march towards the Stanley Cup beyond the first and maybe even beyond the second round.
No, it's definitely, I can see them sacrificing him to try to get where they think they need to go. And, if they don't pull the trigger on him immediately, at least we know that his no trade and no movement clause doesn't come in until 2030, 31. So there's that to take into
That
consider
train
as well.
ain't leaving the station this year.
No.
Now, I think that speaks to, I believe that they basically cast the die when it comes to him. And I think there are a lot of teams out there who believe that the Leafs will trade him if the right offer comes around. The issue isn't whether teams want him. It's what they're willing to give Toronto to get him. That's the only issue here. It's not about do teams want him. They want him.
It's how bad do you want him? Is the real question.
And the Leafs are saying, if you want him, we want this. And they're going to ask for a lot because, he's a prototypical power forward in a league that is hungry for as many power forwards as can be found. So, he is a commodity that's not necessarily unique, but it is a commodity. He is a commodity that most teams feel a lot of value for and are underserved in that regard, in that type of player. So, Montreal's a prime example, right? They're looking for a young, tough guy that doesn't play defense up front, right? They've got some great guys. They're looking for more, and he would fit into their future plans. So all this stuff that the Leafs have done, we could sit here and say it's fantastic. We could sit here and say it's terrible. We could see it's desperate. We could say many things, but the one thing we can't say is they're not standing still.
And speaking of how bad they want it, Rogers has finally completed their ownership of MLSE by buying out the Kilmer Group for $4.35 billion. Now, that $4.35 billion that they paid for the last 25% represents the team's entire Forbes valuation in 2025 of $4.4 billion. There you have it.
Tannenbaum did well.
Yeah, he did very well for himself.
Because he didn't pay to become a partner. He was given the shares.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Yep.
He did well. Good for him.
That wraps everything up for the first period there, Frank.
Absolutely. So let's go
20 minutes in.
Yeah, well, there was a lot that happened with the Leafs. Slow down, cowboy. Go NBA tempo.
So the Tempo have had a bit of a rough go the past week or so. This is the second time in the past 2 games that they've had to scramble their starting lineup. Just over a week ago, Marina Mabrey was scratched before their 89-80 loss to the Phoenix Mercury after she felt muscle spasms in her neck. This time around, Julie Alamond was a late scratch because of a left ankle injury, forcing Toronto to rely on a point guard by committee approach, and it kind of showed. They did not do well in their loss against the Wings. That's the way it goes for them. But at 9-11, they're not doing all that badly for themselves. So we'll see where it goes, and I'll have a courtside report probably on Friday.
Excellent. Let's go to the World Cup, and very quickly, we've got Morocco defeating Canada, kicking Canada to the curb. But it was a wonderful trip from the beginning to that point. Canada showed that they were able to advance beyond where they've been before. Unfortunately, the same issues come up where they can't get key goals at key times.
Yeah, they were unable to finish. The first half was indicative of the fact that they could play with the best in the world. Canada did not look like they didn't belong. Morocco's 6th in the world. Canada's ranked 30th. And the first half was absolutely fantastic. Second half, not so much. It was rather unfortunate, but defensive breakdowns and missed opportunities led to them salting it away. in roughly the 82nd minute is when all the wheels fell off, and that was all that she wrote. So congratulations to Morocco on making it through to the round of 8. We'll have USA versus Belgium tonight to look forward to as well.
With their high scoring center in the
yeah,
game.
yeah. Belgium has already appealed the decision. I know that people are making excuses that red cards have been overturned before. The last time it actually happened
1966
was, I was just about to say 1966. Everybody else was mentioning Ronaldo and a couple others that had red cards overturned, but that was before the World Cup tournament started in qualifying matches. So technically speaking, that doesn't count.
It wasn't
violates the spirit of the role to have Donald Trump step in and complain to Infantino about that sort of thing, but it is what it is.
It's always the same story. It's what something looks like. You know, reality is, right, perception. It is what it is. All right. So we've got Canadian B-ball.
Yep, there's actually another game tonight. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander put on a great show on Friday against Puerto Rico. They beat them 110-84. SGA was shooting 9 of 14 from the floor, including 8 of 10 from inside the arc. His 26 points were a game high, so that's fantastic. They've got another game tonight at 7 o'clock, looking to see how that turns out.
Blue Jays, Kaka, even Vladimir Guerrero admits that he turns down an opportunity to go to the All-Star game.
Well, he is going to be visiting his father in Florida. They do have a home outside Miami. He says he's also going to stop into their training facility in Dunedin just for some repairs.
Absolutely. Tennis Canada.
Oj Aliassime beat Alejandro Davidovich Fokina 6-7, 7-6, 6-3, 6-7, 6-1 to advance to the quarterfinals at Wimbledon on Sunday. He will be playing Novak Djokovic. So that's going to be an interesting match.
Wow.
Yeah.
And with the CFL, I think we can narrow it down to, we know that the Argos lost, the team that we follow very closely, but I think the big story can't be denied. Bo Levi Mitchell, Zach Caleros end up out of the game together, and two U Sports quarterbacks are in the lineup playing against each other. Big story there.
Oh, massive. Zach Caleros left the game with an upper body injury. He did actually lead the Bombers to a 14-13. Elgersma, led them to a 14-13 come from behind victory. They were down 13-4 at the half. Bo Levi Mitchell was taken off the field in an ambulance. He did actually have successful surgery this morning to repair his fibula, but unfortunately it does look to be season ending for the Ticats, which is never a good thing.
And at his age, that's the real challenge. The healing process takes a little longer. So the Argos lose, and Adams looked really good.
7 touchdowns. You can't really argue with that.
BC finally won. Good for them.
Long overdue.
And of course, the Rough Riders beat the Red Blacks. And I don't know what's going on with Ryan Dinwiddie. Man, he's already looking like it. He is about to. Well, he already has exploded, if all reports are correct. I've never heard him run his team as I've heard has happened in Ottawa.
No, and it's interesting that he was supposed to be the big hope for them and the big loss for Toronto and the steal. But so far, it doesn't seem to be working out that way. So I'm very curious as to how this all shakes down.
So the Canadians have an RFA.
Yeah, they got an RFA filing for arbitration. Kirby Doc has filed for it. Now, he wasn't tendered a qualifying offer, mainly because he played under 40 games this season, and he's played under 80, I think, in the past 3 seasons, which is why he's arbitration eligible. 154 games over 4 seasons with the Habs. He only has 77 points and 209 hits. So it's not surprising that they've decided to go that route.
So the Sens have a trade target that's going to arbitration.
Yeah, and that would be Jason Robertson. They've been looking to try to get him. Seattle was going to give the 7th overall pick to Dallas for a $120 million hit over 8 years, but they said no. Jim Nill is trying to play it down, saying it's just part of contract negotiations. Robinson just finished his 4th year, $31 million bridge deal, and wants to raise the summer between $14 and $15 million a year. Dallas is saying, now we'll give you 12. I got to be honest with you. Connor McDavid is only making 12.5. I don't see how Robertson should be making more, but that's just me.
this is where we're at. What happened with the core four? We're at that juncture with some
Yep.
players who are we're doing the core four application, which is I need you to pay for my what I could do and what I could do for you. The Flames. Let's talk about them. Oh wait,
Yep,
Jets.
yep.
Jets. Cole
Yep.
Perfetti going to arbitration.
Apologies, Frank.
No worries.
Cole Perfetti is set to file for arbitration. This means that he can't be tendered a qualifying offer or an offer sheet. They're likely going to point to his 50-point campaign and continue his upside and his continued upside as a top 10 pick from back in 2020. He did have a successful season with the Moose earlier on, which brought him up to the Jets, but they're not biting on his salary figures.
And then we've got the Flames, Backlund, the last member of the Flames in the playoffs in 2022.
Yeah, so like of all the players that went there, after losing in a 5-4 overtime loss in Game 5 of the second round playoff series, in the over 1,500 days since they've been there, everybody's gone. So, he was the longest tenured player in franchise history, approaching his 19th season. Backlund's the only skater still in the 27 lineup to have played a Stanley Cup playoff game with the team. So that's definitely something.
Talk to me about the Oilers and goaltending.
Well, so they picked up this new guy. I don't know if you heard, some dude by the name of Freddie Anderson. Apparently he's just coming off a cup win. They're trying to pair him up with Tristan Jarry, who, wonder of wonders, has also won a Stanley Cup. And we're going to see how that works out for them. Anderson tends to run very hot and cold. So does Tristan Jarry. So the key here will be hoping that one gets hot while the other cools off, and vice versa, so they can swap them out.
I've talked all the time with you, Aaron, about goaltenders nowadays. It's capturing lightning in a bottle.
100%. And if they capture the right lightning at the right time, it could work.
Yeah, the lightning has to happen at the right time. Speaking of lightning, they were shocked in Vancouver this year with all the crap that they went through, but they've got a pearl there, Novotny. Tell me about him.
Yeah, so they managed to pick up Adam Novotny at 24th overall. The fact that he fell to 24th was actually a surprise for a lot of people, including Ryan Johnson. He was projected to go anywhere from 13th to 26th, but the preference obviously being around 13th. But the majority of the scouts and media had him to be picked in the late teens. He didn't have any inkling as to the fact that he was going to go to the Canucks, but Johnson said that he was the guy that they were targeting. He models his play after Mason McTavish, which is not a bad thing. I think it's something that the Canucks actually would need going forward, especially as they're working to retool the team.
This show was like my pants after Christmas dinner.
It's a little too tight.
I had so much that we went through. It was our little layover. A lot has happened. In fact, later on we'll have more to talk about. We can drill down a little bit further into some of the stuff that's going on, the World Cup, baseball, everything, and FIBA and Canada's participation in it. Aaron, thanks for doing this.
Glad to be here, Frank.
He's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanishi. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.